Hey, welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. It's day 29 of keeping track of the progress of the broiler flock. So we're raising meat chickens and we're bringing you right along for the growth and progress of the flock day by day. We're doing a video a day. We do record them on Sundays, but we don't upload to media platforms or social media on Sundays. So we just piggyback those on to the following day on the next Monday closest. But we are at day 29, so we're going to turn the camera around, look at the flock. It's about noon, September 20th, 2023. We are in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. Temperatures are in the low 70s, and so that's really perfect for the age of this flock when we've got Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens that are in that where they've just turned 4 weeks, going toward turning 5 weeks. That is actually our point of reference for the temperature range that these chickens prefer. They want to be in those low 70s, and if it gets a little higher than 75, they start to get warm, and if it gets lower than 70 and like lower than particularly 68, 67, they start to actually feel cool. And we will actually, as producers and flock managers, start to see some of the indicators of a little bit of stress on our birds if the temperatures for them, their ambient conditions, are outside of that range by too much. So you actually, in our operation where the birds are confined into a building and we're able to have some electricity accessible, we actually do use supplemental heat part of the time. So basically overnight we use some supplemental heat on our birds because it's been getting into the high 40s, low 50s. That's really too cool for them. And what we'll end up seeing is we visually monitor the manure quality, the appearance of it, because that really is a tip-off. What's coming out of your bird is really a tip-off of, first of all, is there enough consumption of food and water going in? And secondly, how are they feeling? And so if we see certain indicators in the manure by visual observation, we can pick out certain things about how they are feeling about their environment and how physically, how their bodies are handling the environment. So when temperatures would get too cool and you see some chill stress, you're going to see a runnier manure typically. So, you know, we watch for that. So we know if we're seeing a quality manure condition, then chances are the ambient temperatures are comfortable for our birds. So we also watch different things with that. But we're going to take a look at them, and actually we're going to try to pick out a bird that kind of come on our radar the end of day 28. So the day that they turned 4 weeks old, and we actually lost 2 chickens to flock loss prior to processing. On day 28, one we documented as heart failure and one we documented as an accidental, like it got itself turned over and they can't breathe when that happens. And there wasn't somebody in the barn right at that moment, so they won't last long in that posture because they just can't breathe. So we documented those, but you know, we're now watching because so as of morning of day 28, our survival rate of the flock leading up to processing was at 98%, which is super. That's super. But you know, this sometimes happens when conditions are really good for growing the flock. You'll get, you know, up to week 4 and things look great, and people will ask us, you know, how's the flock going? Oh, it's going great. How many birds have you lost? Oh, less than a handful. Oh, that's great. You're gonna have a great flock. In the back of our minds, our brain is telling us, yeah, but this is when they start dying. So we don't want to be negative Nellies about it, but that's sometimes if you're going to see heart failure, you're going to start to see it after week 4 because conditions that could have occurred back in week 2 will set in motion the strain maybe on the heart, and it won't show up as flock loss until like week 4, week 5. So we are going to take a look at one that is on our radar because the one yesterday that died of what we documented as heart failure, I was pretty sure we were losing it, and I wanted to get it in a video before it passed away to show you the indicators that we see. And by the time we came back out to the building to do, with the intention to do the video at that time, that bird had already passed away. So we are going to try to find this one, but let's take a look. We've actually just filled waters. The last time we would have filled feeders would have been maybe about 20 hours prior to when we're filming, so they pretty well have, like there's a bunch of birds at a feeder. They pretty well have the feeders eaten down. And we are going to put in another 100 pounds. And so watching with us here, we're kind of watching our feed supply. We basically had all of the feed that we needed for this flock prior to the flock hatching and moving in. So that was a total of 60 50-pound bags. And so in this case, though, we have 12 bags that are a 19% protein value, which is acceptable to put the birds onto later in production toward the end. But we always start them on a 22% protein, and sometimes we can feed the 22% all the way out to the end. But as it is right now, including the 2 bags we'll put in today, I have 16 bags of 22% protein value, and the birds are tolerating that well because temperatures are mild, so we're not having an issue with any birds having a struggle with that overall. You know, maybe we will individuals, obviously. This is the bird I was talking about, so as I'm talking, we'll just let the camera zoom in on him, and you can kind of take in, you know, and there's a bird standing behind it. So this one right here at the water is on our radar. Like, I'm going out on a limb saying that bird's probably already in heart distress, heart failure. He went on our radar late in the day on day 28. So I'm going to say by day 30 or 31, I bet this bird will have passed away. The bird that just sat down behind it, while it was standing, that was a great comparison of a bird that looks healthier, that doesn't look under distress, compared to a bird that does. So, going to show you, and the lighting's not super effective for this, but I'm going to show you the 3 things, at least 2 of the 3 things, and might have to explain the 3rd thing, that indicates to me I'm really concerned about this bird. So, for one thing, if we can get somewhat in close here, it is really hard to tell the coloring, but where this bird has some places that aren't feathered in completely, that skin coloring is getting like a mottled pale purple, almost a darker red. So like compared to, let me zoom out of there. So like compared to these birds, there's a nice healthy pink to that skin tone. Some over there you can probably pick up. So that's not the case with this bird anymore. This skin is getting like bluish. So, you know, indicating what? And I'm a lay person. I don't have the medical terms for this, but you know, a imbalance in the oxygen content in the blood, or the oxygen saturation or something. So, okay, so you can correct me. I can take correction on an issue. I can take education. So if you know the correct terms and feel compelled that I need to know them, feel free to put that in the comments. But as a layperson, as a flock manager, I know that the color tone under this bird's skin has changed. And that's an indicator to me that there's a heart issue. The other indicator is here around his face. This is a male. Around his face and the back of his neck. So that, you know, they don't get the white feathering at the back of the neck like they do like on their wings and stuff. But in these birds that we identify as a heart issue, they have a different appearance there at the back of the neck. Like the back of, and of course they're going to look at the camera, so we're not going to see it. But the back of most of the birds' necks, the feathering looks fairly smooth. It lays down fairly smoothly. It doesn't look frazzled, you know. On these birds that start to go into like a heart distress, on the back of the neck, that feathering or fluff starts to look kind of frazzled. And overall, the general condition of the bird's feathering is starting to look a little bit just rough, you know. So that's an indicator that this bird probably is not doing well. So you can see a little bit of the dark coloring on the back. The other thing is, I think I'll more or less have to explain, we can see that the bird is at water. It clearly still desires to drink. I've seen it at food. It will move around, but it is more reluctant to stand up and move around than the other birds in the flock. So any one of those things by itself, I would not assume that that bird isn't doing well. You could have rough feathering. You could have a little bit of an off color. You could have a bird that's just more sedentary. But if that's just one of those traits at a time. But if I have a bird that I see all three of those traits combined, almost without fail, consistently, when we see those three traits together in the same bird, we generally lose that bird to flock loss prior to processing within 48 to 72 hours of having picked up on those indicators. And that's why we now say, when we first started raising broilers, we were told, oh, sudden death syndrome, it's a big thing in broilers. They just, there's no way to know ahead of time, and then they just die. And it's really not that. It is still sudden, you know, the onset's kind of sudden, and it doesn't take long before we lose the bird. But if you do observe the birds a lot, you do pick up on those kinds of indicators. And if we see those three indicators together, as I said, typically we know we're going to lose that bird probably in 48 to 72 hours. So we will keep an eye on that one. Hope we don't lose it, but all indicators are that particular bird that we took a close-up on isn't going to make it. So probably the population is going to be 298, maybe at the end of today, day 29, or maybe at the end of day 30. So we'll see. But thanks for joining us. Join us again. Give it a thumbs up or give it a thumbs down, either way. But we hope that you'll interact with the video, and feel free to comment if you have any questions. So we sure appreciate our viewers, and we pray for blessings on y'all. Please join us again.